Okay, we're all set.
Okay, this is the May 19th meeting of the City of Sandusky Board of Zoning Appeals. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Pike?
Here.
Mr. Pizzo?
Here.
Dr. Siemens?
Here.
Mr. Delahunt?
Here.
Mr. Matthews?
We have a quorum. We had the minutes of the April 21st meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read them?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the meeting, or the minutes as written.
Second?
Yeah, I've got it. There was something about in the second issue that we addressed, something about the vote. I think the vote from the first issue was at the end of that, as well as the vote for the second issue. What was it?
That one down there. Okay, what are you talking about?
Is that the second one? No, I think it was on the next one. It was a copy. The results of the motion and the vote on the first issue were repeated on the second issue, and then the motion and the vote of the second issue followed it. So there's just
An extra.
a sentence or two that need to be eliminated there,
Okay.
just to clear it up.
Okay, I'll make that correction.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the reading of the minutes as amended. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, this is an adjudication hearing, so in such that the people are going to be giving testimony. If you wish to give testimony, you need to be sworn in, and I will do that now. So if you're going to give testimony, please raise your right hand. Say aye, state your name. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. If so, say I do. You are sworn in. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a hearing for 305 East Water Street. Specifically, that's the minutes, excuse me, we're caught up here. It's for an area variance to permit a mural facing the public right-of-way at 305 East Water Street. We have the staff's comments. Is there a thing additional you wish to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property in discussion is 305 East Water Street. The zoning is downtown business district, and it's surrounded on all sides by downtown business district zoning. The variance requested in this case is to allow a sign that surpasses the mass factor requirements in the sign code. The applicant proposes to place approximately a 75-foot by 17-foot mural on the western-facing building of the western-facing facade of the building. The code currently has a maximum mass factor standard of 80 square feet for exterior wall signage on the facade, and the way our code is written, it does define building murals, but it doesn't specify any type of regulation on zoning, on building murals. The way that the wall sign is defined encompasses a building mural, so a building mural falls under the umbrella of a wall sign, the way our current code is written. So the only way we can prove a mural is to have a variance to exceed the sign size limitations. The size limitations on this mass factor of 1 would only allow an 80 square foot sign, and the mural, the size of a general mural is much larger than that, as you probably know. The building is located within the downtown historic district, and it is defined as a non-contributing structure that's been drastically altered. The applicant submitted an application for a certificate of appropriateness from the Landmarks Commission. That meeting was held yesterday, and they did receive their certificate of appropriateness to place a mural at this location with the paint specified and the size specified. Some of staff comments to the Landmarks Commission included just mentioning the time period of our historic district. Large-scale mural signage on the side of buildings was very common for the time frame of the historic significance of our city. And for the style and the setting of the building, the mural is appropriate and would contribute to the overall character of our city. Staff's interpretation, as I mentioned, of the sign regulations dictate that a mural facing the public right-of-way falls under the definition of wall sign and is therefore regulated by the sign requirements for wall signs in Chapter 1143 of our zoning code. That would hold this property to a mass factor of 1, meaning the length of the facade is 80 feet. Mass factor of 1 would limit any applicable signage to 80 square feet as per our zoning code. So as I mentioned, a variance to the sign code is the only way to permit a building mural that faces a public right-of-way, and the variance would not be substantial for this purpose because it's not the greatest definition of a mural in a sign code. Planning staff strongly supports this proposal for creating a new piece of public art in the city and recommends approval for the requested variance at 305 East Water Street with the following conditions: that all necessary permits are obtained through the building, engineering, and planning departments, and a certificate of appropriateness is granted by the Landmarks Commission, which, as I mentioned, is complete as of last night. Thank you.
A question for you before we start. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we approved one for the State Theater. Trying to get a visualize on the difference in size. Are we similar in size for something that was approved in the past?
My experience with looking at that mural is that it would be a similar size,
Okay.
because I have seen that mural before it was unfortunately destroyed. I don't have the dimensions on hand.
I just remember it being quite large, so, okay. And we're approving the size, not content. Is that
Correct.
Okay.
So we cannot, the only thing that can regulate content is like the obscenity clauses. We cannot, by First Amendment, regulate content. So we're looking at the size and location
But
of the
Landmark
proposed
has
mural.
already looked at it and approved content.
Landmark has looked at the building and the type, the paint that they're using, and the approved mural.
Okay, thank you. Well, at this time, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this request? If so, please come to the microphone, state your name and your address.
Am I okay to speak in favor of my own project?
Pardon?
I'm okay to speak in favor of my own project?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. So, and I just thought if you guys had any other questions, you're welcome to
Tell
ask
us,
me.
just for-
Ryan Whaley, 316 East Water Street.
And I know who you are, but
Yeah. So the idea of this project is basically kind of an ode to the State Theater project, to be honest. It was, even though we can't really talk about context here, there's a big piece of Sandusky to that. What we saw with the State Theater project, State Theater mural was a lot of tourists were coming into town. They're taking photos. They are sharing that with their friends on social media and basically promoting Sandusky. So I think it's a good thing for all of us. There's another example in town as well. The size is similar to the one on the side of the A&B Hobbies building, which I know has received a lot of pretty good attention. I've spoken to all of the, even though we are in a business district, we certainly have residents down there as well in the condos on that would be the east side, and then of course on the other side of Water Street, the Window folks. They've all actually communicated with city staff with letters of support for the project. They feel it'd be a good benefit for the neighborhood, benefit for the park that's across the street, which a lot of folks come to relax and enjoy the waterfront view. And really the other thing is that I'm lucky enough where I've been able to travel a lot in past careers and things like that. And when we see a vibrant and active downtown, we typically see a lot of public art, and murals are typically a big part of that. So I'm hoping that this will encourage even more murals done appropriately, of course, but as the city continues to grow. If there's any questions, I'm glad to answer those for you guys.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this request?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim Schwanger, 362 Sheffield Way. I'm not here to speak in favor or against any of these items that are on the agenda. My only concern is that probably about 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, all of a sudden, the public is getting a different agenda than what you're getting. The agenda online has absolutely no explanation on what any of these different properties are doing. And we can blame it maybe on inexperienced or new staff. but the public should be getting the same agenda you're getting, which explained all the different variance requests. So maybe that's something that this committee can address, or maybe the staff can address that in the future.
We can give your concerns to staff.
Okay.
We don't
All right.
control that here.
Okay, well, I'm just letting you know that the public's not seeing the same thing you're seeing. So if they don't see the same thing you're seeing, nobody's going to show up and ask about it.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this request? And I'll come back to the board here. Is there any questions, concerns?
I just was trying to recall, did we have a ruling on the mural at A&B Cycles? Do you
I don't
remember, did that
recall.
come before us? Not that it really matters, I just was,
There's a house, I remember one house on Monroe Street, West Monroe, that has a mural on the side of their garage. It's about the 1200 block.
okay.
And then I remember the State Theater. I don't remember specifically A and B, but then again, I don't remember last week, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anything else? Is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you very much. I wanted to confirm Mr. Whaley's comment. We received 2 letters of support via email on the project and 3 calls of support, and we didn't receive any negative calls based on the public notice sent out. And that the Live Green mural on the ABC Cycles building did come in front of this board for a variance. I remember it was February 10th. That's the date I remember. It was either 2018 or 2019, but we used that report to help us structure this report to make sure you got the same information.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if that's the case, a motion is in order.
I'll make a motion to approve this variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions on that variance? Hearing none, if you'd call the roll.
Mr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
Yes.
Dr. Siemens?
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
That variance is approved. The next item on the agenda is an application for an area variance restricting accessory structure coverage for no more than 30% in a backyard at 3230 West Monroe Street. We have the staff's report. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property at hand is zoned R140 Single Family Residential. Surrounding properties to the east, south, and west are also zoned R140 Single Family Residential, with the exception of R2F 2 Family Residential to the north. The surrounding uses are all residential. The existing use of this site is residential. The proposed use is residential. We're going off of Sandusky Zoning Code Section 1145.15A, which restricts the capacity of an accessory structure in a backyard to 30% of the backyard area. So the variance today is to exceed that 30% threshold. The applicant is wishing to build a 40 by 50 foot garage totaling roughly 2,000 square feet in the backyard at 3230 West Monroe. The backyard, on a rough staff estimate and measurement, is approximately 3,250 square feet. So roughly speaking, the garage would accumulate 61.5% of the backyard. Staff is not opposed to storage uses on a residential property such as this one. However, staff does or has determined that 2,000 square feet is relatively large in comparison to the house on the site, which we have determined is roughly 1,300 square feet. So you're looking at an accessory structure that is in excess of 5 to, even up to 800 square feet larger than the primary structure on the site. So staff would like to see a structure that's more in tune and in scale to the site itself. There were complaints from neighbors. The concrete pad in this picture is pre-existing. There has not been a permit issued from the building or planning department. There was an application from 2020 for this build that was not approved by either building or planning departments. So the 2 years in between now and then is a question mark as far as staff is concerned, but we did see the neighbors did see some building movement on the site, called us in code compliance, and a stop work order was issued. Staff then encouraged the applicant to try to get a variance to proceed with what he would like to do on the site. Based on that, staff does not believe the strict implementation of the zoning code would create a practical difficulty for the fully requested variance. and therefore we do not support it. We don't support, or we're in favor of a variance to some extent, but we do believe that 61.5% of the backyard is large in comparison to what's being proposed and what we've seen in the past cases. So if, in any case, a variance of between 30 and however much percent the board feels is appropriate is approved tonight, staff would like to see the following conditions, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained to the building, engineering, and planning departments prior to any more construction. Structure needs to be a minimum of 10 feet from the existing residential structure. Through staff assessment, it looks like there is an existing attached garage. The applicant said that will be torn down, but we would like to see that torn down prior to any construction moving forward, and that the height of any proposed structure does not exceed the average of 15 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this request? If so, please come to the microphone, state your name, address. That being said, is there anyone here who is speaking against the request? So please come to the microphone to state your name and address.
My name is Jeff Wagner. I live at 1018 LaSalle Street, which is kitty corner to the property. And you said 15 feet building height?
For the height, yeah, the average height for accessory structure is an average of 15 feet from the peak of the roof down to the gables where the gutter line
Did
is.
anybody take a measurement? Because I think you're beyond 15.
So there weren't any drawings in front of staff, so we have no recollection of what he's proposed.
Yeah.
Nothing's fully built, so once again, we don't have any factual evidence of what he's proposing, but 15 feet is the maximum. It's the average. It's usually roughly 17 feet roughly, depending on how you propose the gable, the roof, but yeah.
I just got concerns with the project. Basically, it's the whole backyard almost. I live kitty corner to it. And now, isn't there a setback you have to have between existing? I know you have to be 3 feet from the property line at least. Don't you have to have a setback from existing structures on property adjoining on both sides? Because, I mean, the one side, you're talking about draining a 2,000 square foot of roof with the next door property right here. And then I don't know if anybody knows it, but this area is prone to standing water. That was 2018. My wife has been trying to get I wanted to pass it down, but she's been trying to get where it needs catch basins, basically because it won't drain. And I mean, that was an exceptional year, but I've lived there for 30 years. And she was to the petition point. A lot of the neighbors were against it because they just didn't want to, I mean, everybody's going to have to pony up to try to fix the issue. I mean,
Let me just answer,
yeah,
before we get too far.
yeah.
Zoning wise, there are setback requirements for this piece of property. They're
Yeah.
not setbacks between you and the neighbor.
Neighbor?
But they are, and I don't know what they are, 5-yard setback?
Yeah, through the chair, I'll chime in on that. So there is a 15-foot requirement from the closest point of this accessory structure to a neighboring main structure, so a house in many
The
cases.
house would have to be it?
So yeah, an accessory structure would not fall under those standards.
Okay, so the two garages are,
So yeah, if they're
They're
detached
kosher.
garages or detached sheds, then they can be within,
Okay.
as long as they meet their property line standards, which is 3 feet on any property line.
Okay.
So 6 feet total minimum
Yeah.
between the two structures.
yeah, okay, then
Yeah.
it's kosher with that. Just, I mean, it's a red iron building. The gentleman is a contractor. It's not going to be a garage.
Mhm.
So do you have to be zoned commercial in order to do commercial work too, or?
That is a bit of a gray area, but in many cases, yes. If he's going to use the structure as a commercial accessory use, that would not be compliant.
I'm not totally sure of that, but
So without anything in front of staff, it's hard to make that determination, but as an assessment, correct, if it's a commercial structure, accessory structure, excuse me, then it would not be permitted.
Okay. My main concern then too is, so then, if I would put up a garage, I have to be so far from his building, but I think I'm gonna be all right. I thought there was that 15-foot was actually the other structure, the house, so his building would not bear on my ability to put a garage up. Was my main concern, that and the runoff issue and the neighbor to the east, I mean, you're talking about 1,000-foot of roof, and there's only 3 feet from his property to that property. And then his property sits low as the part that floods. So basically, that's going to run, see, you're going to have a water issue. And then, I mean, when you build a building as big as your yard, it's obviously not going to run on your yard. It's not, you can't drain on your yard unless you have a, you know, yeah, it's not an old school where you drain right in a tile, but you're not allowed to do that anymore. So it's got to drain free. So, I mean, that's the other issue. So I just have issues with what it's going to do to the, you know, the area. Because almost every spring we have standing water back there at some point. Some years way worse than others. I mean, sometimes it's been standing from January all the way to August. And you get the smell, I got ducks. I mean, not to laugh, but my mom pulled up, she said, that's beautiful back there. Whole mallards, and, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was an exceptional year, granted, but very seldom do we have where it's, you know, you get 3 good storms in the summertime and you got standing water, yeah. I just have concerns in that respect. But it sounds like from what you are saying that, I mean, that you're already a little leery of the whole thing to start with.
That's correct. In our recommendation, we do not support the full variance as requested.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, when you're talking about doubling the size of what should be there, that's quite a big building for, and it's a, I mean, I was an iron worker. It's a red iron building. I mean, you go back there, you're looking like, what are we, I mean, I walk steel, so when I see a red iron building put up, it's usually someplace where you're not in a more rural setting, you know, or someplace in an industrial park, not in the backyard. But I just have the concerns.
On that, Mr. Wagner, on that map,
That's me right there. That was when you were showing that. That
can
was
you
my
just point out which house is yours and where that standing water was that you showed the picture of?
Can I walk over there a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, this is my boat sitting in my driveway. You're 355, water stand, I mean, it's, I don't know exactly, but it's, I'd say it's not, it almost looks like a football field. So it stands on 355, 340, and you can go 4 more lots. And that water stands there. I mean, like I said, and I've been where I couldn't even be out in my house in the summertime for the smell, what it smelled like. That was an exceptional year, granted, but, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah. My wife got it to the point of the petition point, but a lot of the neighbors were, and basically, everybody was going to pitch in, because you need 3 catch basins back there. And then right behind my property is basically the lowest point on it. I had the city manager, or not manager, but the streets guy, I had him there and can't think of his name. And I measured 16 inches of water on a tape that was sitting back. And then been there but like I said, it was an exceptional year, you know, heavy snowfall and then, you know, pretty good rain in the spring, but still, it didn't leave till August. So she's still kind of working on it, but she got frustrated when they had a big meeting out to the other facility out by where you take your recycles. That's where they held the meeting at, and she just didn't get very much cooperation from all the surrounding neighbors on it. So she kind of got a little frustrated. So, and then it's been actually a little bit better lately as far as rainfall and all that. It's been kind of a dry year. So when a problem ain't a problem, you don't think about it until it becomes a problem again. Yeah. But like I'm saying though, depending on how he would put his gutters, if he would run his gutters to the back of that property, you're going to have all that runoff going back right there, you know. So you're just going to increase the runoff that's going in there now. And basically, I don't think I got a sub pump. My sub pump will run 7/24. It'll run, when that's got water back there, it just runs constant. And then there ain't a lot of houses back there that have basically don't have basements. So they're not getting rid of water either. So it has no way to go. No. I mean, because that sits lower than all the surrounding property. And filling it is not going to make a difference because it's just going to spread it out. Because this gentleman, he talked the neighbor into taking to dig out that property, his foundation, and just push it out. He pushed it out into there to make him seem like he was doing something that was going to help, but that ain't going to help. You know, that's why they wanted to put the basins in there. The engineer did, you know, talked us into I got pictures of all that, you know, how they wanted to lay that out and everything. Because she got to the point where it was getting kind of close, but that's it. That's kind of where I'm at.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yep.
Is there anyone else who wish to speak against the request? Since the applicant didn't come, we have a couple of choices. You could table it, or we could just rule on the variance.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what size building could they build with, do you know what dimensions they could build without a variance?
Based on the report, I can give a rough
Just
estimate.
guesstimate. I mean, it's 40 by 50 that's proposed.
Off the top of my head, I know 1,000 feet would suffice. No, just under 1,000 feet would suffice. The 30%
Would that
threshold.
include demolishing the existing garage?
Correct. Yeah, it would include demolishing that.
Well, I would like to make a motion to deny this variance. I think that the 30% coverage is a good rule of thumb, and that's exceeding it excessively.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions on the motion? Okay, a yes vote is to deny the variance. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
Yes.
Dr. Siemens?
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
The variance is denied. The next item on the agenda is an area variance to construct a 6-foot fence in the side yards at 623 Bennett Avenue. We have staff's comments. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Property presented here is zoned R140 Single Family Residential. All properties surrounding are also zoned R140 Single Family Residential. Surrounding uses are residential, existing use is residential, proposed use is residential. The code that we are discussion about is zoning code section 1145.17, letter G. A variance to allow a 6-foot fence in the side yard and only a 4-foot fence is permitted. The applicant wishes to build 6-foot privacy fence on both side yards at 623 Bennett. As I had mentioned, 4 feet is the maximum requirement on the side yard. The reasoning for the 6-foot fence was not expressed in the application. As staff is assuming for privacy. If the applicant's here, he can address that further, or she. The edge of the fence would be set back an estimated 18 feet from the property line, from the front property line. Staff noted that in this image to the right, the southern, in this instance, fence would be a permittable fence if the neighboring properties were the applicant. So the southern properties, this would be considered their backyard, which a 6-foot fence would be permitted. So based on that, the conclusion and staff recommendation is we do support this fence for both side yards. But if there was going to be a decision on one or the other, the southern one we strongly feel should be permitted based on the zoning code standards. But we do feel that both are appropriate. So we do have one condition, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained through the building, engineering, planning, and any other applicable agency prior to the fence construction.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the request? By hearing nobody in the audience, any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, so the staff says 4 feet would be okay to the north and 6 to the south. Is that what you're suggesting?
We would like to see both at 6 feet, but if the commission feels that the northern, in this instance, fence is not appropriate, we would like to see 6 feet on the south side. Given the nature of the zoning code, that the only difference in a permittable fence and a non-permittable fence is the applicant being, in this instance, the fence would be in a side yard, but the other applicants would be in their backyard. But we do support both 6-foot fences on the side.
Mr. Chairman, I drove out there. You know, there has to be a reason why we came up with this 4-foot rule on the side yards. And to me, It just looks as though if that 6-foot fence was on both sides, it just seems so obtrusive to me. The owner isn't here to tell us why he wants to do it. So I'd like to have a good reason why we should change from the 4-foot.
Anyone else have a comment? I agree with you. I would think, number one, I would think that if I'm asking for a third higher fence than what's allowed, is that a third, that I'd be here to support it with something, so.
Actually, 50% higher.
50% higher. Okay. So, okay, a motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we deny the variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny the variance. Are there any other questions? And again, a yes vote is to deny the variance. So if you'd call the roll.
Mr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
Yes.
Dr. Siemens?
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
The motion is approved to deny the request. Next item on the agenda is an area variance to construct a 6-foot fence in the side yard at 1022 Camp Street. We have the staff's comments. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The zoning of this site is R2F, two-family residential. To the east, we have both R2F, two-family residential, and also in the same property zone, two different zones is also R140, single-family residential. To the south is R2F, two-family residential. The west, R2F, two-family residential, and also RRB residential business. The surrounding uses are all residential with the exception of the 7-Eleven on the corner of Monroe and Camp. This existing use of this site is residential. The proposed use is residential. The zoning code in discussion is 1145.17G, which is to also allow a 6-foot fence in the side yard, and as mentioned, 4 foot is the maximum requirement. The applicant would like to build the 6-foot fence, and based on the application and in discussions with the applicant, it is to ensure privacy and also to increase safety at the site. The applicant had mentioned they had some troubled neighbors and people walking through the property, and they'd like that to stop. This parcel is unique and does not have a neighboring structure to the north. In the defined side yard, or what the code defines as a side yard, instead, a side street connected to Monroe Street exists. It functions as an alley. It is parking and also access to the neighboring properties off of Monroe Street. The staff does not consider this property to be a corner lot in that sense because the street does not extend onto Camp Street. There is a barrier between the two. The planning staff does support the requested variance at this site. The fence is not going all the way to the road. There is a 20, I believe, foot setback from the street or the sidewalk, excuse me. The applicant does know that and reiterated that to me, that this is significantly away from the sidewalk. So given the unique circumstances of this property, staff is supportive of the requested variance at 1022 Camp Street with the following conditions, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained to the building, engineering, planning, and any other applicable agency prior to the fence construction.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this request? Please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
My name is Nicole Panucci, 1022 Camp Street. I'm the owner of the property. Like he said, it's a safety concern. Had issues, had an officer tackle and arrest somebody in our side yard. 7-Eleven is a very problem. And then I have high traffic, foot traffic, cars. I have a 4-year-old stepdaughter, I have dogs. Just a very high concern of all that traffic and foot traffic. I have people coming up on the side of my house in my backyard while I'm out there and come up behind me asking questions. It's very big concern about safety and just wanting that privacy and people out. And my stepdaughter in as well. It's
Okay.
I would like a 6-foot fence.
Thank you.
Oh, and I also have a new picture. I was asked to draw something that showed that angle of the property, because this does not from the contractor for whatever reason. I don't know, if you'd like to see that. It's just that angle. Do you want to see it? It's just showing that angle with the sidewalk. That would like it
Well,
to
you
be
had
fenced in.
The sketch that you had.
Yep, it just shows that right there.
Through the chair, if I may, yeah, the sketch from the contractor did not properly show the angle that the fence is going to be on.
Okay.
It's following the property line up into what the applicant stated, it's behind the front tree. So in the drawing on the screen now, you see that they did draw that tree as reference. It's hard to see in these pictures other than maybe the right one on the screen now. In proximity to the sidewalk, it's roughly 20 feet, as I had mentioned.
So the fence is going to be behind the tree? or-
Yes, about 4 feet behind that tree, but it still still have to go at that angle to get to the tree, and his drawing doesn't show that.
Okay.
I'm still,
Mr. Chairman?
Any questions? Yes.
What type of fence do you plan on erecting there?
Wood, 6
Privacy
foot,
type
yes.
fence?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess I'm still confused. Where's the fence actually going to go? So here's the tree, I've got the
You
tree.
can see the tree is right
Right.
there.
And the fence, the 6-foot fence is behind the tree?
Behind it, about 4
And
feet
it will run to where?
to the house, and there will be a gate
Okay.
on that side. And then also from the house to the garage, there'll be, I would like 4 foot there, and then a gate. as well.
Well, 4-foot fence isn't an issue.
Yeah, but it's just that.
But you're going to go
privacy.
from your house behind the tree
Yep.
straight to whatever is that Monroe Street extended to the sidewalk and then we'll point them
Yeah,
following
probably
your
like 2
property
feet off
line.
the sidewalk, like 2, 3 feet off the sidewalk, and then that
Okay.
can go up, and then the chain link is already existing on that back.
For the people who have a pool back.
Yeah, yeah. There's a chain link, so nothing will go there.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, and any motion is in order?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we accept the 6-foot fence as proposed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the variance as presented and a second. Any other questions? A roll call then?
Mr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
Yes.
Dr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
The motion is approved. Did you remember what he had said though about permits and et cetera?
Yes.
So you have a contractor?
Yes.
Just remind him that he has to get a permit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is an application for area variance restricting building coverage to no more than 50% at 2901 West Monroe Street. We have staff comments. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The property in discussion is zone general manufacturing. To the north is a mix of general manufacturing and also RMF residential multifamily. To the east is general manufacturing. To the south is general manufacturing. To the west is both local business and also R2F2 family residential. The surrounding uses as of right now are residential. There's a vacant lot to the left that is undeveloped, and there's a vacant lot to the south that the city currently owns that's undeveloped. And then to the north is zoned residential, but a lot of those parcels as of right now are not developed as well. They're looking for a variance in compliance to code section 1139.07A, which restricts building coverage on manufacturing lots specifically to 50%. The applicant proposes to expand the current manufacturing operation, storage, and warehousing operations by around 5,200 square feet, just under that at 51,800 square feet. Excuse me, I think I might have said 51,800 square feet is what they are proposing. The addition will put the total site coverage at nearly 53.9%, which is 3.9% over the maximum requirement. The applicant is seeking a 5% relief, so 55% coverage variance. They're seeking the extra 1.1% by staff recommendation just in case plans are changed and they have to expand, so they don't have to come in front of the board again. Just a safe measure. The proposed height of the expansion of addition 1 is 18 to 20 feet. That height's not finalized yet. There's not a height limit in the manufacturing district, which the applicant is aware of. And also the building 2 addition, which is highlighted in blue here, they're looking for a 32 to 40 foot height is the proposed. Staff observed that the parcel is in fact slightly below average and compared to other manufacturing sites here in town. The total parcel is 225,000 square feet roughly, and only half of that is buildable. If you see at the screen here, this is across the street. We don't have an exact measurement in comparison, but just a visual, you can see it's relatively bigger in size, and this is what we'd consider an average size of a manufacturing site here in Sandusky. So since there is not a height requirement, staff had met with the applicant back in the fall. We had expressed that they could build up rather than out because of that height limit, or the lack of height limit, excuse me. We did encourage them to build out, though, with close proximity to residential properties and residentially zoned properties, which they did listen and take into consideration. So they are building out rather than up. Staff supports this approach. We would like to see that and not have any obstruction to sunlight or other natural element for these residential neighbors. We feel this approach is less of, lack of better words, a nuisance for those residents. So we would like to see this variance be accepted. Staff is in support of the variance with the following conditions, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained through the building, engineering, planning departments, and any other applicable agency prior to construction.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this request?
I'm here, can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, would you come up, just at least state your name and address, please?
Yes, Craig Dunaway, and 2901 West Monroe Street.
Okay. Questions I've got is, what's the height of your existing building?
The height of the existing building is around 24 feet.
Okay, so
Roof height,
your
it's a little bit
addition
higher.
is shorter, and the other addition is slightly bigger.
Bigger, yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah, and actually, this will be our third expansion of the company since we took it over in 1998. We were down on Monroe, or on Superior Street for a number of years. Moved up in 2008, went from 28,000 to this facility now that's roughly 70,000. We're continuing to grow. One of the things we're planning on doing is we're currently leasing the building. If this gets approved and planning approves our plans, then we're planning on purchasing that building for a long-term commitment to the city. So somewhat a condition, but something we'd have to deal with the landlord if by some chance we can't grow. Right now, we found space down in Norwalk where we're renting 12,500 square feet because we've outgrown the building we're in. So we're planning not only for today but for the future. The variance basically is getting us about a little over 11,000 additional square feet, which is 20% more than the 50 would give us. But we think we'll be using that space up pretty quick. Basically, we're growing, and we're growing substantially. So we just need more space.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I've got a question, I don't know who to direct it to, but I just want to make sure that we feel that that design detention basin is adequate considering across the way is potential residential, that the design is good for what we want there.
Yep, through the chair to Dr. Siemens. The engineering department's been very active with us, and also Public Works, meeting Ray Tech multiple times. A lot of their concerns have been answered, if not all of them, but that is also part of the next process after site plan approval, which is next Wednesday. So those concerns are on the table, a lot of which have been addressed or will be addressed.
Thank you.
As soon as you affect more than an acre, which this building is, you're required to do what they call a stormwater pollution protection plan. And that also seems the city and the EPA, that's a requirement. You have to meet that. I mean, it's just not ours, it's the EPA also.
Right, which we have that for the existing building as well.
Yep. So, but a good question.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And we haven't heard anything from the people to the north, the residential?
That is correct. As of right now, there have been no negative or positive feedback from neighboring properties.
There's no further questions. The motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve this variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? If not, please call the roll.
Mr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
Yes.
Dr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
The motion is approved. Thank you. And good luck. Is there anything additional that we have? Yes.
Through the chair, one comment. I'd like to confirm that the full agenda of the Board of Zoning Appeals packet is available on our city website, just like it is for every other board and commission. So the public has access to the full agenda and the full packet that you have in front of you online.
Okay, great.
That was going to
Mr.
be my
Swanner, I
next
don't think you hear
question.
that.
Thank you.
I heard it, but I think she's wrong. I looked at it before I came in here, and all it has is a list of the different addresses, but nothing underneath it like you have up on board, That's okay. I just wanted to make that statement. Okay. Looking at something different, I guess.
My question is always, is there anything on the agenda for next month?
Yes, we have 2 items as of right now.
Okay.
Top of my head, I can't remember what they're for. I know one's for a front porch that's in the required front yard setback. The other one's slipping my mind. Actually, it is for a side yard setback variance.
Okay. With that, I guess a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm assuming you're going to